I'm glad to be able to speak tonight on this piece of legislation, and I want to wish the Minister well in his office. I worked with him in days when I was in the same esteemed outfit as himself, but I took a different path, thankfully, since then, and thanks to the electorate for supporting me. But I worked with him on the last Housing Committee in the last Dáil, and he was very energetic and some great ideas and very enthusiastic. And I can report, I used to be a member of the Irish Council for Social Housing, and I still have a relationship with him, and Mr. Donald McManus was the CEO there, and the people there are very impressed with his attitude and his approach towards getting the work done, which is a slogan I use myself, and early morning meetings regularly and regular updates, because we've had too much lethargy and too much talk and no action in the last several years, and not getting delivery. We had promises of delivery, but we weren't getting them. There are blockages. But look, I have a couple of things to say about this bill. I'm very disappointed that I welcome it, but I'm disappointed. We're here this morning discussing what I called tyrannical powers being given to the government in regard to the lockdown for the next up till next June 2021, next year, and why this bill tonight isn't attached to that, or hasn't the same timelines, I, for the life of me, will not know. Because if we are expecting and having those kinds of draconian powers, expecting the worst, surely we can expect the same for renters. Renters need security of tenure. Now, I'm not going here to demonise all landlords, because there are some very, very good landlords, and there's a few very, very bad ones. And there's an awful lot in the middle that do their best, and are unintentional or accidental landlords that might be left the house or acquired a property somewhere or other that they never expected to have. And yeah, they're great people, and the relationship between the tenants and landlords is very good. There's some areas in where the tenants are wrong, where they just blackguard and damage and don't appreciate the property, and landlords can't do anything with them. And the PRTV often doesn't support them either. And, it's unfair. And landlords are leaving the market. I left here, I think, this day fortnight, and went down out here and down the road to a chemist, down here in this lovely plush part of Dublin with all the new buildings. And when I came out, this man was in a van, and he recognised me, and he said, "I'm a landlord here in the centre of Dublin. I'm a landlord," he said, "with 40 years. I have 160. An ordinary man in his van. He was in fixing a toilet or some plumbing problem, one of his house. I'm getting out," he said, "because there's too much hassle. We're being demonised. We're not respected." He's providing that many units. And if people like him, an ordinary gentleman driving an ordinary van, something similar I drive myself in my own constituency, a workman, a businessman, but maybe, and put his homes and a good relationship with the vast majority of his tenants, but wants to be, but he got just tired with the pressures and the demonising and the blackguarding, and he had a lot to say about certain parties of the left who are constantly attacking the landlords. We drive them on away. Where do we go? We saw it here with the bed-sits in Dublin when the Royals closed down some years ago. It's a stupid decision, because, okay, they weren't ideal, but they're much better than sleeping in a box or sleeping on the street, God help us. And, we've over 8,000 families declared to be homeless. So, and Father Peter McVerry and those people are doing their best as well. And the voluntary groups must be supported. And I'm very delighted that the Minister is supporting it. But the evictions and the eviction shouldn't be going on, because people have been discommoded. Ordinary families who are working and paying their rent and happy to pay it and raise their families, they've been put out of work. Okay, they're getting maybe pandemic payment or whatever, but there's no certainty in that. And the worry and the fear that's out there now going forward is huge as well. So we must have this legislation carried on, Minister, in tandem with the legislation you're passing this morning, that we're voting on tonight, the legislation you're going to pass tomorrow, but the Health Amendment Bill, and have it in tandem. Why have we this only for level 5? In level 4, people are under threat of evictions as well. We know that. And I want to tell you this, Minister, and one of the gentlemen I'm talking to, you know him well. He used to be an ex-party member with you as well. And he was dragged to the courts right through the pandemic. First, dragged through the courts, day after day, day in, day out. We were told that the courts weren't doing it, they were just here in emergency cases. And right through, by vulture funds and lost properties. And they were rental properties, and the families were mercilessly evicted out in the street in the middle of the first lockdown. Mercilessly in the early morning raid, just evicted out in the street. 6 families made homeless there and then. And this wasn't supposed to go on at all. Why are we so blinded? Why have we had blindfolds on this government and the last government, and successful when the banks and the vulture funds, we make it easy for them?
Oireachtas, I don't mean to interrupt you, but your colleague behind you is indicating that he wishes to speak, Deputy Michael.
Oh, I didn't see him, sorry, I didn't see him.
Yes, so I'm just
I didn't see him. I want to say that to you, and I want to say, Minister, this must be extended along with, as I said, the legislation for the powers you're given until next summer, which is too much. I felt February would be enough. But why have we two-tier? Why is it only protect the families that are in the rented properties and a threat of eviction? We only protect them while level 5 is there and 10 days thereafter. The fear of that, you know what I mean? They're hoping, obviously, that the restrictions will be lifted, and the fear of that for them, they'll be hoping the restrictions will never be lifted. So I'm making the point that we have a two-tier. Blatantly two-tier. We're looking after the vulture funds and the banks at giving them free gratis. And this idea of the ministers meeting the banks and asking them to be nice, the moratorium shouldn't have been ended. The moratorium should be there. Other European countries, several of them, have brought in legislation to insist on moratoriums for the banks and for the vulture funds and for the families.
Just to be fair, I'm not